All right, Trevor, you're good.
Good?
Yep.
I grew up around many people who love the sport of fishing. I always thought it looked fun, but I knew I wouldn't have the patience. I wanted to try this though. I wanted to try something new. So this spring, I decided to give it a go and see what would happen. I instantly fell in love. It was all I could think about and all I wanted to do. I then began to think to myself, how many people have never gotten the chance to experience the joys and benefits that I found when I'm fishing? I found myself with newfound patience and just a sense of relief when I was on the water. Hi, my name is Trevor Carter, and today I'd like to share with you the lessons I learned in my time fishing. 19%. You might be sitting there wondering what this number might detail. 19% is the amount of Americans ages 6 and up who fished at least once in the year 2023. That 19% translates to 57.7 million people. Yes, 57.7 million sounds like a very large number of people fishing. But in 2023, the population of the United States was 343,477,355. I guarantee that 57.7 sounds small to you now. I wanted to do something about this, so I decided to spend part of my project time explaining and teaching friends and family of mine how to fish and get them out on the water. This was my first time teaching someone how to fish during my project. I didn't know how it was going to go, but I had a plan of what I wanted to do. These are two of my friends, Sydney and Lauren. They had never touched a fishing pole before, but wanted to learn. I started with the basics of learning how to cast and understanding the lures they were using and how to use them most efficiently. I quickly realized that teaching beginners was going to be a lot more difficult than I had originally thought. But I welcomed the challenge. By the end of our time together, they had progressed a lot more than I expected going into it. Sydney had even caught a fish, but it slipped off the hook right before the chance we got to take a photo. But they both agreed that during our time together, they had learned a lot, and their fishing skill had definitely increased with our time. Photoed above is another one of my friends, Sam Bennett. Sam had no fishing experience coming into my first session with him. He was using one of my rods and caught the basics pretty quickly though. His casting and reel techniques had made a big improvement from the start to finish with our time together. After our lesson, Sam told me that he went out and bought himself a rod and reel to start into fishing more frequently. Sam would also text me about my favorite ponds around here to fish so he could find some new spots for himself as well. During my time with Sam, I learned that people have different learning styles and you need to be able to adapt to help everyone succeed. This is one of my best friends, Ian Susi. Ian had some experience ocean fishing and surf casting before this, but he had never fished ponds for bass or other species. I took him out to Turry Pond in a river that runs alongside Grapponi, Toyota. He picked it up very quickly and was becoming very good at casting and reeling. I had also taught him how to place cast, which he caught on to quickly as well. Ian and I would fish frequently throughout the summer and before he left for college, and he became one of my go-to fishing buddies. Ian had caught on really quickly and has become one of the best fishermen I have fished with. A lesson I learned from spending time with Ian is some people pick up on things a lot faster than others, and you need to be able to have other things planned, more difficult things planned, to be able to help them succeed more. Throughout my teaching work on my project this summer, I found that not everyone learns the same way. As a teacher, you need to be able to adapt to everyone's different learning styles. I have learned things about myself as well, and through my project, I have developed more patience than I have ever seen before. It was a very rewarding experience as well to see the excitement and joy on my friends' faces as they became better at fishing and more advanced. Seeing the smiles on their faces made me feel good about myself as well, because I knew they were appreciative of the lessons and knowledge I was able to bring to them during our time. For the independent research portion of my project, I looked into the history of fishing lures, including their uses, the designers behind them, and the different types that have been created and manufactured over time. I studied from the first ever fishing lure created to modern day lures, In my project, I focus on these 5 main lures. Crankbaits, swim baits, rigged plastics, spinnerbaits, and topwater lures. Through my studies during this project, I have learned so much more about the uses of each of these lures and how to use them most effectively on the water. Using the knowledge I learned about the 5 different types of lures I studied, I was able to use it in the water. I studied these lures during my project time by going out to ponds and testing them and trying different techniques. I was comparing them whilst using on the water to see which was the most effective lure and which lure I caught the most fish with. Through my project time, I found that certain lures would work better for me than others, and I would preferably choose those lures when I would go out on the water. They fit my styles better. The lure I found most effective for me during my project time was the rigged plastics, preferably the wacky rig. My research allowed me to use the knowledge I had gained most effectively and understand the different uses of each better. You can learn new things at any time if you're willing to be a beginner. If you actually learn to like being a beginner, the whole world opens up to you. This quote by Barbara Scher really resonated with me in my project. This quote represents the point of my project really well because it describes me before I started fishing and the people I had taught during my project time. I accepted the fact that I wouldn't be good at this without practice. This quote demonstrates how the people I taught were during the lessons too. They accepted help and were willing to listen, which allowed them to progress and move forward in a positive way. I was a beginner at teaching and giving lessons before my project, so I was learning as I was going through as well. By learning from the beginning, it allowed me to adapt to everyone's styles and better understand the differences and help me increase because I had never taught anyone before, so this was all new to me. This spring, I wanted to try something new. I wanted to try fishing. I did. I loved it. It quickly became an everyday hobby for me, and I haven't looked back since. It helped me develop newfound patience and gave relief when I was on the water. It calmed me. I tried something new, and it rewarded me more than I would have ever imagined. So, if I have to leave you with something, try new things because it may just become your thing. Thank you. Any questions? Andre.
What was the first lure ever created?
It was the Dowagiac. And it was a wooden tubular lure, and it was a topwater lure that spun. And it was created because the creator was sitting on a park bench, and he threw a piece of wood, a wood chip, into the water, and a bass immediately struck it. And he decided, could I take this piece of wood, and can I do something with it? Can I build something to help catch fish with it? And he named it after the pond he was fishing at, which was the Dowagiac. Harrison?
What was the biggest fish you caught?
The biggest fish I've ever caught was probably a 5-pound largemouth bass at Turry Pond, which was surprising to me because I didn't know they had fish that big there. Yep.
Do you usually try to catch any specific fish, or do you just hoping to catch something?
Yeah, I typically target largemouth bass, smallmouth bass, but during when crappie are spawning, I'll target crappie too because very good eating fish. Do a little catch and cook, so. Yep.
Where would you say to fish at?
I would say my favorite pond that I fish at is Long Pond in Dumbarton. If you fish along the side, you can catch bass, and there's a ton of crappie in there for spawning, and they were big crappie. In fact, one of these photos, that one right there was some of the size of the crappie we were catching when they were spawning, and they were 11, 12 inches long. Yep. Yeah, so I actually tried that this summer too with my friend Ian. He took me to Hampton and we surf casted through the night. We didn't catch anything, but it was actually really fun, and I definitely look forward to doing it again next year.
Nice job. Great job, Trevor.
Thank you.